Be the change you want to see in the world!
Well, hello everybody. It's fantastic to be here. It's a great privilege for me to be able to talk to you and to share my ideas about the meat industry and its impact on climate change. When I was researching for this talk, it was amazing to me that I hadn't actually appreciated that the meat industry has an effect on the climate. And what really surprised me when I really got into the subject was not just that, how it has an effect, but the scale of the effect that it has on our climate is really quite amazing. So this is why I wanted to share to you some of my thoughts on this. There's a huge amount of data on the internet telling us about the effects of climate change and how the meat industry is impacting on that. And I was sorely tempted to just bombard you with these facts and figures so that you could really understand how big this problem really is. So I wanted to really present this data to you, but then I thought, well, it might be preferable to try to keep you awake during this talk. So I'm not going to do that. There will be a small amount of it, but not so much. But then I thought, well, what is it that I really want to talk about? And it's not just about climate change, because climate change is an issue. But who is going to be impacted by climate change? Obviously, we as human beings are going to be impacted, but within that group of people, that human beings, it's our children really that are going to be affected the most. We may survive over the next 50 years without the climate being too adversely affected. It may change, and it is changing, but it may not be that badly affected. But in our children's time, in our children's children's time, they're going to see some severe problems if we continue with doing what we're doing. So really, it's about the children, our children. And not just about that, more personally, I just think it's about my children. I'm so blessed to have fantastic children. My oldest is 16, and my youngest is handsome little chap here, Alexander. He turned 1 a few weeks ago. Now, I'm going to be 47 on Tuesday. I know I don't look it, so thank you for that thought. Why does everyone laugh when I say that? Anyway, so I was just wondering, what is my son, what's Alex going to be involved in when he's 47? What's the world going to be like? Is there going to be a world when he's 47? So this is really what I want to talk about. I think the world of my children, as every parent does, but I really think that it's time for us to think of the world for them. And that's why I'm here. This is a current situation. We have lots of champions. We've got Greenpeace, the IPCC, people like Al Gore and others, and there are fantastic initiatives involved as well. Earth Hour, COP15 last year, COP16 this year, and so on, and the Kyoto Protocol as well. But this is the real situation, and in Singapore, you have a fantastic acronym for this. You call it NATO. And this is really where I think things are, okay? I think there's so much talk about it, but there's no action. And what I want to try to explain to you is, or give you an idea of something that we as individuals can do. We don't need governments to guide us in this. We don't need anyone to do us a favor. We can do it ourselves. I went and talked to some people about it because I thought, well, maybe I'm just being a little bit, anarchistic and activistic in this. And they came back with similar thoughts. People are saying the government, the UN, somebody should do something about this. It's not my problem. It's somebody else's problem. The green bandwagon, businesses are using green to charge more to consumers. This is particularly worrying that the whole world needs to pull together, but that's not likely to happen. And I think we've probably seen that and maybe feel that ourselves. The one that I liked the most, though, was I asked somebody what the Kyoto Protocol was, and they thought it was Jason Bourne's next movie. So we got a lot of education, really, to get out there. But really, what about the future? Will things get better or worse? And I'm really lucky to have some people joining us on the screen. Will this go all the way over there? I'm going to move over here. But I'd like to, fantastic to have these two people join us. I'd like to introduce Mr. V. Gunn, who's got the System 21, which we're going to explain a bit later on. Thank you, Zubi. Great to be here. And joining V is Richard Head from the IPCC. Hi, Richard.
G'day, Zubi.
Hey, nice shirt, mate. Well, you got a part-time job as a traffic light? I think it's a nice shirt, Zubi. Don't worry about it. It's Richard, thank you very much. Well, V, you've heard the comments from the public. What do you feel the future holds for us? Well, Zubi, it's not a rosy picture that can be painted. The way I see it, there are two major problems. First of all, as countries strive for economic growth, more products are going to be required. And as more products are required, that means more energy will be used to manufacture those products. Secondly, and I think more importantly, as a global population rises, we need more food and water to feed the animals that are being grown for us to consume. The problem with that is that the world just cannot sustain that kind of resource allocation. So you're referring now to the United Nations report? Yes, in 1996, the Food and Agricultural Organization published a report that estimated that the meat and dairy industry produced more greenhouse gases than any other single industry, even more than the transportation industry. They estimated 18% of greenhouse gases are emitted by the meat industry, and it could actually be as high as 53%. Hogwash. I beg your pardon, Richard? There's no way the meat industry accounts for 53% of the greenhouse gases. But that's still unacceptably high, isn't it? That may be so, but there's no way it's 53%. At best, I'll concede 18%. But Richard, you're from the IPC. I thought
Yeah, whatever.
Okay. What is it that you're trying to achieve?
Ah, you mean the Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change?
Yes.
No, I'm from the other IPCC, the Interpersonal Carnivores Collective.
Oh, what is it you're trying to achieve?
There's a lot of information on how meat is bad for you and how it's bad for the environment, etc., etc., etc. So we've decided to try and bring some sanity to the debate. For a start, planet Earth works on a cycle, and we're on a cycle which is leading to global warming. We can't stop it, period. So this mumbo-jumbo about how the meat industry is causing global warming is all a load of rubbish. It's going to happen anyway. Even if the world was on this cycle, what man is doing is accelerating this cycle, the meat industry in particular. You know, we all know that we're going to die one day, but that doesn't stop us trying to prolong our lives for as long as possible, does it? Why doesn't Mother Nature deserve that same right? You know what? We're programmed to eat meat. Our Neanderthal ancestors thrived on meat. We need meat to survive. That's not quite true either. It's been medically proven that our digestive system is closer to a herbivore than to a carnivore. We just cannot process meat efficiently. We don't need meat to thrive. A plant-based diet is more than sufficient for our needs. Meat lovers constantly tell me that they need to eat meat because it has protein. Well, let me tell you, you can get protein from plant-based sources like soy and other non-meat products, and it's more than sufficient for our needs.
Richard, what do you have to say about that?
Who the heck wants to eat soy? It's for sissies, tree huggers, and new age hippies who want to dance naked in the forest when there's a full moon. Who wants to be like that?
Actually, there are a lot of famous people who don't eat meat. Albert Einstein, Leonardo da Vinci, Pamela Anderson, Charles Darwin, Steven Seagal. The list goes on.
Meat is for real men. It won't cause the end of the world. That's going to happen one day anyway. Let's enjoy meat. There's nothing quite like the chomping into a big, juicy, rare beef steak with the juices oozing out of the sides of your mouth. The feeling of fullness that you have after it, it really does bring out the animal in us. Look, Dick, the name's Richard, got it? Sorry, Richard. But the facts are conclusive. The meat industry is the biggest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. It's killing our planet and it will kill us. If it's so bad for the environment, how come Al Gore, Greenpeace and all the other environmental goody two-shoes don't talk about the meat industry? That's an excellent question, Richard, and we have to ask them for their reasons. But what I do know is that the meat and dairy industry are very powerful and they have a lot of political clout. So maybe the environmentalists don't feel ready to tackle that industry quite as yet. Yeah, but the oil companies are powerful as well, and the environmentalists have no problem attacking them. True, but the oil industry is used to it, and they know full well that the world needs their oil in order for us to keep our current standard of living. And besides, they have actually cleaned up their act quite a lot. Well, if you exclude the recent fiasco in the Gulf of Mexico. And what the oil companies have done to clean up their act is primarily due to the pressure put on them by other organizations. The meat industry doesn't have that pressure, but it needs it if we are to effect some change there.
So V, what do you propose we do about it?
We need to stop eating meat. I know we've been brainwashed into believing that meat and cow's milk is good for us, but in fact it is not at all good for us. In fact, it is detrimental to our health. It's making us sick. It's contributing to diabetes, to obesity, to cancer and countless other diseases. It's making us sick and it's making our planet sick. We don't have to stop eating meat. If government and big business just stick to the Kyoto Protocol, we'll be okay. Well, that's a problem, isn't it? Very few governments or businesses stick to it. What about these new technologies that are coming in, like wind energy and solar energy? That's going to reduce greenhouse gases. That's true as well, but at the moment it's inefficient, expensive, and there's a low adoption worldwide. It's going to take a long time to make a significant impact. Okay then, the intensive farming technologies that have been developed, that is going to solve the problem. They could, Richard, but there are many problems with that, such as increased suffering for the animals, shortened lifespans. The meat could be contaminated with the residues of the chemicals, and when we eat the meat, we could get contaminated as well. And also, these techniques are expensive, so the meat industry are not going to adopt them unless someone forces them to, and no one's forcing them to.
But V, asking everyone to not eat meat is a tough one, isn't it? Even with all the compelling evidence about the meat industry contributing to greenhouse gases, we're just not used to it. The public can't do that. There's millions of dollars of marketing spent on meat and milk. It's ingrained in our subconscious. We can't do it.
That's true. But what is more important to us? Eating meat and drinking milk and thereby signaling the end of our planet? Or is it more important for us to nurture our planet, this beautiful planet that's been looking after us for generations and generations and generations, but not just for us, but for our children as well, and our children's children? What is more important? Aha, that's why I don't have any children. I don't have to worry about the future. All that matters is now, and meat is now. Yes, I'm not surprised you don't have kids.
Yes, but I do have children, and I really do care about the future my children will have. V, is it okay if I talk about your 21-meal system?
Yes, please do.
Okay, gents, thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you, it was a pleasure. Eat meat!
I hope you realise that was a bit tongue-in-cheek. Okay. I'm going to give you some facts and figures, not a lot. But did you know that 1 kilogram of beef, or the carbon footprint of 1 kilogram of beef, is exactly the same as driving an average car 250 kilometers? So you have a kilogram of beef, same as driving your car 250 kilometers. And there's more. 70% of the forest, the Amazon forest that is chopped down, is used for grazing cattle. And the remaining 30%, a large part of that, is for food for those animals. And poverty in the meat industry as well. It's a third of the world's cereal harvest, and 90% of the soya produced in the world goes to animals. Now, there's almost 1 billion people who don't have enough food to eat, and a lot of them are actually starving to death. So it's quite disgusting, actually, that we're putting 90% of our protein to animals. And the sad thing about that as well is that they eat the soy and the other grains that we feed to them, thereby taking it away from humans, but they don't give us back as much protein as we give to them. So it's a hugely inefficient way of using our resources. So what can we do? Well, ideally, as Vegan said, let's move to a vegan diet. I can't do that, I'm afraid. I've really tried, but I can't become vegan. But I'm trying to get towards that, and this is what we can do. And we need to reduce our dependence on meat. We have initiatives such as Meat-Free Mondays, and they're doing pretty well. But once we get to Meat-Free Mondays, then we make it Tuesdays, and then Wednesdays, and so on. And then the System 21. Let me just outline System 21. Okay, a small amount of mathematics. We have 3 meals a day on average, 7 days a week. That means 21 meals a week. So assess how many meals on average that you have which are meat-free. And that gets you to a number. I started off with 10. And then just increase this number by 1 every week or as quickly as you can. So you go from 10 on the way to 21. And until you reach 21 or as close as you're comfortable with, just make sure at least one day is meat-free. Once you start doing this, you are going to get used to it, and you're going to realize actually that you feel better physically and emotionally, and you'll be able to go closer and closer to having a meat-free diet. And also, you don't have to be a New Age hippie to reduce your meat intake, but if you want to be, don't let me stop you. Okay. So then the why? Well, it's really for the future of our children and of our planet. We don't need anyone to help us to do that. It's our personal choice. We can do it right now. So the question is, do we really want to save the Earth? And if we do, we really ought to do it now while there's still a chance of saving it. There's no point doing it when it's too late. So eat less meat, because our planet will become less polluted if we do so. There'll be less poverty. We'll end the barbaric conditions that the animals are kept in. It's really shocking what we do to these animals. And it's also good for our health. I just want to end with a poem. This is from a 14-year-old lady in Singapore. I just think it's quite nice to end with. As the sun beats down mercilessly, and her mind numbs with pain, as she squints at the burning sun for the faint hope of rain. As her child burns with fever, only words can she give, and even water to bathe his brow, only prayers for him to live. As she struggles, saddled by debt of money she never received, as she stumbles into pits whose depths she never perceived. In conditions unsanitary, with food seconds from decay, her story is one of millions whose futures are painted grey. A child dies every 4 seconds in the reality we refuse to see, while we hide in our lives, while we hide in our fantasy. But as a million drops of water make up the sudden sea, a million hands, yours and mine, we can change history. Please do what you can to help. Bye-bye.